Hey, Creekside Church, how's it going? It's Jackson here, giving you another thought about what it looks like to add a rhythm of prayer into your life with maybe some of the free time that you have on your hands now, or maybe some of the total lack of free time that you have on your hands now if you have little kids that you're now learning how to homeschool. So as we've been talking about this week, what it looks like to be a person of prayer, I was thinking about this great passage that you can read for yourself. It's in Luke 18, it's verses 1 through 8. And it's Jesus telling his followers a parable about how they ought to pray and never lose heart, which seems timely for us. And the parable that he starts to tell them is of this story of a widow who's very poor, doesn't have a lot of resources, and she finds herself the victim of something. We don't really know exactly what, but she has had an injustice that has happened to her, and she is looking for justice being granted to her. And so what she does is she goes to this judge, but this judge is a corrupt judge. He's not good at doing his job. He basically just wants some bribe money from her to even take the case. And so he doesn't take the case from her, and she comes to him and she's like, would you please just help me get justice? And he's not interested because he's this like corrupt and messed up judge who's not interested in helping the people he's supposed to help. So a super like terrible guy, but then she just keeps bothering him. Like literally, that's basically just all she does for weeks on end. She shows up at his work. She shows up where he's shopping. She shows up where he's eating. She shows up at his home. She just keeps pestering him. And she says each time, she says, grant me justice against my adversary. Grant me justice against my adversary. And she just beats him down with her request. And eventually he caves in. And he caves in. He says specifically in the parable that he's caving in not because he fears God, not because he's interested in doing the right thing, but he caves in just because he is sick and tired of this woman bothering him. And this is the crazy thing. Jesus says, that's exactly what I want your prayer life to be, to his followers. He compares himself to this corrupt judge, which is something that we have to definitely unpack a little bit. And he compares us to this persistent widow. And the whole goal here is that we would be a people who bother him with our prayers. That's just kind of a wild thing for me to think about, that Jesus' biggest goal, the thing that he wants from us in prayer, he's like, here's how I want you to pray. I want you to just bother me. I want you to pester me. I want you to beat down my door. I want you to bother me so much. And so here's just a couple things for us to unpack to make sure that we sort out this parable well. This widow with no resources or ability to get a corrupt judge to do something for her is a perfect parallel for us. We are so much more out of control in our lives than we think that we are. And right now is the perfect example where we are getting a very clear picture of just how out of control we are, just how few things we actually have the ability to manipulate. Our sense of safety and security and control is entirely false. And that can be freaky and paralyzing for each one of us in different ways. I definitely have felt paralyzed and disrupted by it multiple times over these past couple of weeks. But it's the perfect thing, because all we have, just like this widow, all we have is time to bother God. That's all we have time for. That's it. We don't have resources to manipulate things. We don't have the ability to change what's happening right now. We don't have the ability to cure coronavirus in an instant, which would be awesome. We just don't, because we do not have nearly as much control as we think we do. But that being said, there is one thing that we have, and we have the ability to bother and to pester the one who does hold the control and the ability. So here's why this is like the perfect illustration, is because the only person who has the resources or the ability to do anything for this woman who is in need is this judge. And Jesus's whole point is not that he is corrupt or messed up like this judge is. He's not looking for whoever does the most or scores the most points, holy points or whatever, to like be able to help them specifically. He is so much more willing to help and to be there for those in need to a fuller extent than what his job description should even be. So it's not that he is corrupt, but his point is, if a corrupt judge who's not even interested in helping people becomes willing to help this woman because she bothers him, how much more would a God who loves you and cherishes you and cares so deeply about you, how much more would he be willing to help you if you bothered him? If even a corrupt judge, if even somebody as messed up as this judge is willing to help a woman that has nothing to offer him, how much more will I be willing to help you? Because he is the best judge. He's the greatest judge. He has, in the complete inverse of the widow, of us, he has all the power. He has all the authority. He has all the ability to take care of us. So I don't know what things you're feeling fearful about. I don't know what things in your life feel disrupted. I don't know the degree of emotions that you're feeling on any given day. Mine seem to be all over the place. I feel encouraged and discouraged constantly each day. And I think the beautiful thing here is that Jesus, in giving us this command of this is how I'd like you to pray, all that's there is that we would bother him. That's it. And that's something that feels so doable. Like, I have so many fears and insecurities and feelings on any given day that I have a plethora of things to bother him with. And so as you're going about trying to implement maybe prayer into your daily life here in the midst of all of this, man, don't overcomplicate it. Don't overcomplicate it. We like to make prayer this like holy mumbo jumbo. It's got to be perfect. It's got to be clean. It's got to be clear. It's got to be long. It's got to be elegant. It's got to be pick a thing. We psych ourselves out from praying as we ought to, because the one simple command here is bother me, bother me. Like how gracious and kind a command from a loving Father who clearly is just desperate to spend time with you, who says, I'm running the entire cosmos, but I would gladly keep an open door policy with any one of my children so that they could bother me. And I'll set down what I'm running at any point and any time to hear them, to talk to them, and to be with them. So there's an open door policy with the one who has all the power, all the control, who knows how this ends. And my only encouragement for us is, why wouldn't we use it? Why wouldn't we bother him? Let's take him up on his request and bother him this week with everything that you feel, with everything you're afraid of. In the midst of all that's going on, take some time each day and bother him constantly. It doesn't have to be pretty. It doesn't have to be clean. It just has to be bothersome. Love you guys so much. Looking forward to connecting with you this way over the next coming weeks. See you guys.